Okay, this is probably gonna be rather short because this document isn't all that long either, and this is the shape doctrine for the Canadian Air Force. So I'm following through with what I said I was going to do because I wanted to do a commentary on this and to understand more what's going on and how to fix things. Because you can get stuck you can get lost in the forest when you're in there all the time. You get used to where everything is. And I know that that's an oxymoron because the familiarity of something is what gives you comfort, right? But comfort then becomes complacency, and so considering like stuff, there's a lot of definition, huge amount of definitions in here because military people love acronyms, absolutely love acronyms, and because acronyms are means of deterrence and of opaqueness for non-English speakers. I'll be honest with that. Read between the lines. There's a lot of stuff going on here. Even a piece like this, right? Because if this is published knowledge, then there's a bit of intent in knowing that it could fall into your opponent's hands, and if it's readily accessible with a few keywords, or you can even check it out from your local library. Um, but sometimes things are not always what they seem. That this could be the official doctrine for operations, but they do something else entirely. The greatest play in any handbook any playbook is the switcheroo. Absolutely, and that's to be learned. This is actually one of the examples in this book, having to do with the D-Day landings and distraction. Distraction and surprise are the greatest and best elements in any kind of operation. Hence why, deception, again, military deception. Um, and, again, they do, like I said this before, the shape doctrine is out of date. It doesn't exactly account for um, the usage of orbital assets, right? And the escalation by the Chinese having put their own space plane into orbit. That for which before this, the only space plane in operation was the X-37B, which is currently down. It's about to be launched again, and I'm saying this immediately after the SpaceX launch. It's only a day or two afterwards. And I'll be honest with you. I'm not who I am online and in videos for the most part. Like I'm playing a bigger, more embellished version of myself. I'm much quieter in person because I put a lot of energy and thought into these things along with the artwork. Much more introverted person. So one of the best points in a relationship to me is when you just be with someone and not have to talk about anything, not have to have any anxiety, just understanding. Okay. Uh, Now, I've been playing my own little game here with some very powerful people. Because if I didn't start doing this and I didn't start implementing the lessons that I have learned, then someone else would be forgotten. That's the gist of it. Like I feel like I've been forgotten, um, or like how I wanted to fade away. No, I finally broke through, I would say, and I got in contact with a person very high up on the food chain. Of course, he declined to comment on this because of OPSEC, and I respect that naturally. Um, but here's the thing with OPSEC is that if everyone, because it was adopted in the 1960s, and again, one of the other examples in this, that if everyone uses OPSEC, then the enemy knows OPSEC. So like again, and I know I'm gonna talk in circles here. I know some people might have to stop and re-listen, or to soak this all in. That's I can't I can't separate that word now, um, from the practice. You know, who am I to turn that down? You know, if someone says if you want I want to, sorry, if a woman says if I want to go for a soak, I'm right there, man. There's more to life than just, you know, freaking, you know, formalized bullshit. You know, the congeniality is really what's appreciated, because you know you have this is a very aggressive, a very stately piece of material, and again it's meant to intimidate. It's meant to show how smart we are as Canadians, as a representation, as a document. um, you know, and I was going to talk about the failings of the Air Force, but you know, I don't really need to, because it's pretty well known to anyone that's in the defense community, and how dry and how boring all this stuff can become after a while, and how, you know, all of these systems that we create, you know, especially from the viewpoint of someone from an older generation that grew up without any of these computerized assets, that you know, it's that age-old engineering principle that if you create a system that even idiots will use, only idiots will use it, because the system is so good. Or in this in our, you know, to make a contemporary reference to AI generated art, that it creates idiots of everyone, because you don't have to have the cognition, you don't have to have the abstract thought, for creativity, which would otherwise be called, you know, outside the box thinking. You know, because you know, anyone that's involved with this and that studies strategy and history, again, Sun Tzu is a well known, you know, monumental contributor to military tactics, and anyone at RMC has studied him. And you know, it's again, as it says, you know, and you know, it's echoed in martial arts. It's that, you know, the smartest thing to do is to not get into a fight. Don't get into a physical confrontation. Don't be throwing kinetic weapons at each other. There's no need for that. You know, although again, with things that I've said with the history of propaganda, that you know, there's just some people out there that don't understand anything except violence. And those are the people that you need to worry about. And you know, again, there's a lot of challenges because of public perception of what the military is, and what the function of a fighting force really is. Because the first thing that an insurgency wants to do is to disarm the population, and to disarm any opponents. So in this case, it would be the fighting force, that is the Canadian military, or paramilitary groups, or trainers, or the industrial complex, because you know, those are the other ways through which you undermine power structures and people. So an army marches on its stomach, right? Napoleon. They use an example in this book about Tecumseh, Brock, and I think it's. Let me pull this up again. It's not Hall. Hull, not Hall. I'm thinking of somebody else. You know, because like we don't treat them very well. We don't treat our military people very well. We expect them to do everything with nothing, although some commanders prefer it that way because it's supposed to spur on creativity without communication, and expecting people to use creativity when they've not been taught how to think creatively. And this right is the most delicate yet strongest weapon that we have, right? The connection between the gut, the heart, and the mind. So there's missing proponents to this because the understandings of human biology, right? And there's been interruptions and demoralization campaigns which are absolutely real. They're not just conspiracy to undermine the function and the authority of not just the police, but of social institutions, governments, and they're fighting force, the application of force, because without force there is no deterrence. And that's what most of these doctrines are centralized around, is we're not getting into a fight. We would prefer that we didn't, because no matter what, we're going to have a fucking Oppenheimer on our hands again. And if we don't listen to the lessons of history, then we end up in the same position as other strangulated, restricted, and crippled countries. Because blowback eventually happens whether you like it or not. We need an aircraft carrier. We lack a more prevalent and enduring close air support role, like a purpose-built close air support aircraft. Simplicity is best. I know this to be true. The simplest solution is most likely to be the correct one. And because there's no food in the bellies of our fighting force, and they're just it's really crunched. You have to these meterings and these purchases, which make procurement all that much more mired and clouded in bureaucratic bullshit, which is bureaucracy is the enemy of a military force, as it's supposed to be as streamlined and precise as possible, like a bolt of lightning, right? Deadly accurate. So how do you achieve deadly accuracy? You have to fire while the barrel is cold. The first shot is the most accurate. Everything after the fact, everyone knows where the shot comes from and where the report of the rifle, the sound, the shock wave, and educated people will triangulate that position, and then all hell breaks loose. I think that's about it. I'm going to keep this at 15 minutes for brevity's sake, because there's huge gaps, that are just waiting to be exploited. Just absolutely just waiting to be exploited. And people that have never suffered in the mud and never dug a trench or smelt the singe of burning flesh. Have ever experienced. And though they think they know, they do not understand. Thanks for listening. I'm going to work my way through the other doctrines for a more comprehensive understanding. And, hopefully I run into someone that's actually able to, without, professional restrictions, to have a comment on this. Because the more aware the public is, the easier it is to persuade people in other positions of power. And, our allies, if especially me, I would look at Canada right now as a drug addict. Keeps leaning on its brother or sister to the south for financial support and financial aid, but their brother is the one supplying the drugs in the first place. It's a strange, paradoxical relationship. And if we want to make independent decisions for the future of this country, then we need an independent fighting force. That is all.